Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation, okay, folks? This channel is strictly for entertainment purposes, and I like to give card readings, and I like people to have a good time when they come here. But I'm not just a card reader. I'm somebody who is also a researcher. I'm somebody who is working on my second doctoral degree right now. And I know how to do data collection. And sometimes when I uncover data that you all don't like, I get people unsubscribing to this channel because you don't like the data. You don't like what the data says. And I get that. We all have things we don't want to hear about. It's very dangerous to be overly emotional. If the emotionalism you're feeling is preventing you from looking at data, you could be unwillingly participating in something that's really horrible. I'll give you an example. I had no opinion about, well, I did have an opinion. The Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, okay? Everybody in LA knew that Johnny Depp had a temper. He had, picked up 2x4s and tried to beat people up with them. He had gotten in trouble for hitting people on movie sets. There were previous accusations that he had a drinking problem, a drug problem, that violence was all around Johnny Depp. I did a remote on Johnny Depp, and when I did a remote on Johnny Depp and Adam Waldman, his personal attorney, I came into a room and I saw in the remote, a slithering kind of reptilian creature that looked and felt an awful lot energetically like the same guy who had attacked Hillary Clinton. That was surprising to me. Why did the Amber Heard trial show up in your feed on YouTube? Why did the trial show up in your feed and my feed and everybody else who's watching? Because Court TV was filming it, and a lot of advertising money was spent to make sure that whether you liked it or not, you were being pushed to watch it through Court TV. After I did the remote, where I found that the person overseeing Johnny Depp's legal counsel felt an awful lot like the same person who had been using Russian bots to attack Hillary Clinton, I then decided to use my other skills, which is that I'm a researcher, to find out, who is this guy? And I came to find out that the person overseeing Johnny Depp's legal defense was Adam Waldman. Adam Waldman is also the former lawyer of Deripaska. He's a Putin shill who was meeting with Julian Assange something like 5 times. He was going and getting dirt from Julian Assange. He was under investigation and had to speak to the Justice Department regarding private meetings that he had had with Julian Assange. For me, energetically, it felt to me like the same person who had run had run the campaign on Hillary Clinton, the sleazy, oily, creepy reptile that had gone after Hillary, it felt like the same energy. And that is how I found Adam Waldman. First, I felt the energy, and then I did the research. And what I found out about Adam Waldman was very disturbing. I found that he worked for the Russians, that he was an expert in Russian propaganda, that he had the ability to go in and slice up dialogue and conversations and edit out and twist facts in order to make, he specialized in making women look insane, often victims of malignant narcissists. For example, Trump's campaign against Hillary Clinton. That he had been working closely with Julian Assange and Deripaska to help Trump win that election. That he had paid Adam Waldman had paid Dan Abrams of ABC News, who owns Court TV, to slide it towards Depp. And so they set about to engage in a propaganda war against Amber Heard, or as Johnny Depp called it, I want total humiliation for Amber. How did he get together with Amber Heard? He was making a movie with her. There was a kissing scene. He decided he wanted to be with her. And so he decided that he was going to target her to get Amber while he was engaged in a relationship with somebody else, the mother of his children. And so Johnny Depp set about to get Amber, and how he did that was by luring her into a hotel room under the false pretense that there was going to be a meeting that was supposed to take place between him, her, and the producer of the film that they were in together. Turned out that that was a lie, and that he was simply trying to be alone with her in the hotel room. This is very similar to what we see with Harvey Weinstein. So we have a case of a guy with a drug and alcohol problem, a long history of domestic violence, but a really great actor who knows how to seduce and woo women. Lures a vulnerable adult, Amber Heard. So what if she had mental health problems? It doesn't mean you have a right to beat the crap out of her. Or to hire your psychiatrist to drug her with multiple drugs so that she can be controlled, so that you can go off and do what you like. If you are innocent, you don't hire Russian operatives to run a bot campaign. You don't have secret meetings with Mohammed bin Salman on a yacht somewhere in international waters where you're meeting Adam Waldman. That also came out. Articles were written about this. There was an article in the Rolling Stones that was an expose. There was an article in Mother Jones that was an expose. The Hollywood Reporter did an expose. There were multiple investigative reporters who uncovered Adam Waldman's conspiracy to destroy Amber Heard. Don't take my word for it. You can read the Mother Jones article. You can read the Rolling Stones article. You can read the Hollywood Reporter. Everything I'm saying was documented, but here's what wasn't documented. His relationship with Dan Abrams. The fact that Dan Abrams was taking money from Depp's campaign via Adam Waldman in order to push a narrative and to influence the jury. And that is the part that people don't know. So in addition to being hit with multiple bots, Russian bots, against Amber, in addition to that, they were also pushing people to watch Court TV, which was supposed to slide it to Depp. No matter what came out of her mouth, the hired fake reporters on Court TV that was overseen by Dan Abrams were supposed to twist everything in Depp's defense. They ran a massive campaign to get a cheerleading squad of thousands of people to come outside the courtroom. Millions of dollars were spent. Guy was worth $500 million. Why not? He owns his own island, maybe more than one. The attorney, Emily, is a friend of Dan Abrams. She's also a Republican out of California. She was the attorney, the lawyer that was reviewing the Amber Heard trial. So what was her job? Her job, in case you still didn't hate Amber enough, her job was to have you all look at court TV, which was biased against Amber Heard. And then if that still didn't work, her job as a Republican operative working for Dan Abrams was to help trash Amber while simultaneously looking like she was analyzing it as an attorney. All of this was set up with money that was traced back to, you guessed it, Johnny Depp. And when you think about the article why she was suing, she was being why they sued her, it was because she wrote an article about being a survivor of domestic violence, which was her right. And so whether or not the lawsuit even had legs is questionable. Now, a lot of people wanted to continue to argue with me, not because they were being rational, because they weren't being rational. You saw the trial because Johnny Depp wanted you to see the trial. You saw the Amber Heard trial because Johnny Depp wanted you to see the Amber Heard trial, because he spent millions of dollars to advertise the trial, and specifically Court TV's version of the trial, which was the one that was airing, which he paid money through Adam Waldman to promote in order to manipulate you using a Russian operative. We know who Adam Waldman is. Adam Waldman is a Russian operative. Adam Waldman was meeting with Julian Assange during the election between Trump and Hillary Clinton. We know who Adam Waldman is. Adam Waldman has been investigated by the Justice Department for years for his criminal activity. If you are innocent, you don't hire Adam Waldman. What I found from that experience, that investigation, and exposing who Dan Abrams was, and that he had in fact taken money from Adam Waldman to promote Court TV and to throw the trial to Depp and to influence the outcome of that trial and public opinion. It was like a modern day witch hunt. And no matter how hard I tried to protect Amber Heard, people simply kept attacking her as a crazy bitch because they wanted to love Johnny Depp. They wanted to love Captain Hook. They wanted to love Don Juan because he's a really great actor. And they fell in love with him as an actor. And you can admire someone as an actor and understand that they have a private side, that they have a side to them that is really dark and disturbing. And unfortunately, everybody close to Depp knows that he has a problem. He has a penthouse on Sweetser in West Hollywood. He shops in West Hollywood. My offices were on Sweetser. I lived in West Hollywood. I lived in his neighborhood. I shopped at the same stores. I worked at a health food store, and I worked at locations as the physician where he shopped. It was a small community of people. We're not talking about millions of people. We're talking about a small, close-knit group of people in West Hollywood. We are a small group when you think about us West Hollywood people. My offices were on his street. And no matter how hard I tried to tell people who Adam Waldman was and direct them towards all of the data that I had collected on Dan Abrams' secret money to advertise Court TV so that you would watch Adam Waldman propaganda, that you would watch Emily, the attorney, who's also a friend of Dan Abrams, who was pitching to get her a job at ABC. I learned a lot from that experience. I learned that ABC was biased because they were getting their reporting from Dan Abrams, and Dan Abrams was taking money from Depp's legal team. This is provable. This is not something to argue about. This is easily provable. And that is why the reporters out of Mother Jones wrote about it. That's why the reporters out of the Hollywood Reporter covered it. The Rolling Stones covered it, because everybody knew this. Again, when you are innocent, you don't hire Russian operatives to edit out whole sections or twist facts in recordings in order to manipulate people. So I learned a lot from that experience. I learned that people are emotional, that they are not rational, and that they can easily be manipulated by Russian propaganda, particularly when they're attracted to or they really like an actor. And here we are again, we find ourselves in that same situation with Eric Swalwell. I didn't know if the guy was guilty or not. I mean, like, I'm neutral, I'm a registered Democrat, but I do know how to do data collection. So the first thing I did is I did a remote, which is I got myself very relaxed and I put myself in the shoes of the person I'm attempting to connect with. But that's not all of what I do. I do data collection after that. And what I felt when I went into the energy was that I felt that I was terrified and scared, as Eric Swalwell, that this was going to come out. This was going to come out on me, and it weighed heavily on me. That this thing weighed heavily on me, these accusations, and that I was trying to keep it under wraps for a very long time. And that I was going to leave the race, that I was going to have to go northeast. I didn't know if he was going back to Iowa, because I hadn't investigated at that point. I just knew I'm headed northeast. So that was the remote, and I documented it. I want to document it without any bias. Then I go and I do my research and find out that he's under investigation out of the Manhattan DA, that there are accusations going back to 2019, that he wrote cease and desist letters and threatened 2 of the victims, that there are at least 4 victims that have come forward, that the accusations look like victims were vulnerable. Now, Swalwell has confessed to bad behavior. When your boss asks you to do something inappropriate, and it's somebody that you admire, and you are a vulnerable adult, and there are many ways that we can become vulnerable adults. There are many reasons why Amber Heard was a vulnerable adult. And I want to go on record saying that just because you're a vulnerable adult, you're female, and you're vulnerable, maybe you are crazy. That means you're more likely to be a target, but that doesn't mean it's okay that you're a target. Can you see the difference? Can you see that? Just because you are a vulnerable adult, maybe she is crazy, doesn't mean you have a right to beat the shit out of her. Just because your intern idolizes you doesn't mean you need to pressure her to perform oral sex on you. It's very important for us to do a couple of things. Number one, we need to stop slut shaming the victim, which is, if you looked at the Depp trial, all he wanted to do was present his ex-wife as a slut. And that is what he hired his attorneys to do. I've got a photograph of you kissing this guy. It's none of your business. Doesn't mean you get to beat the crap. What is she on trial for? Kissing a boy in an elevator? Or what are we talking about here? The only thing that case was supposed to be about was it supposed to be defamation of character? It didn't make any sense. There was no reason for people to see film footage of her kissing some guy in an elevator. The function of court TV, the function of the attorneys, the function of Adam Waldman was to give the customer, Johnny Depp, what he wanted. And what he wanted was total humiliation for his victim. And he succeeded. He won. He took everybody out for drinks and sushi, including the jury, including the typist, whatever they call them, the stenographer, partied with the stenographer. I can't tell you how inappropriate I think that is. What we learn from these experiences is that might makes right, that power makes right. It doesn't matter if he is a perpetrator and she is the victim. What matters is power. You either have power or you don't. Eric Swalwell had the power. His interns didn't. Bill Clinton had the power. His intern didn't. The difference was that his intern was totally into it. That wasn't the case with Swalwell and his 4+ victims, and more will probably be coming out. So now Eric Swalwell has confessed to bad behavior, and we can go ahead and analyze what he said. We can go ahead and do that here if you like. We can go ahead and put that up, because this is something that you will see with perpetrators. You'll see that they will attempt to trivialize, minimize, debase, and discard. This is what we see also with sociopaths. I am suspending. Can you all see this? We're going to read it together. Okay, I am suspending my campaign for governor. To my family, staff, and friends and supporters, I'm deeply sorry for my mistakes in judgment. So he's admitting that he had mistakes in judgment that he made in the past. So something happened that was a mistake in his judgment. I will fight the serious false allegations that have been made. But that's my fight, not a campaign's. All right, so he's admitting that he did something. He's admitting that the thing that he did was a lapse in judgment, that it was bad behavior. So we have a case of somebody who is engaged in bad behavior. The allegations that they were drinking. One of the victims, alleged victims, passes out, wakes up, having sex that she couldn't remember. So then you have to ask yourself, was she drugged at any point? And again, we go back to this idea of might makes right. Who has the power? What does a victim do when they are confronted by somebody in a position of power that is demanding that you do something, demanding oral sex in the car? What happens if you say no? Is it going to get violent? You might be afraid this guy can overpower me. He might break my bones. He might knock my teeth out. If you're like a lot of victims, you're going to freeze. I freeze. I've been in situations where I simply cannot move. Even if I can't scream, I can't move. I go paralyzed. I'm a freezer when I'm in those situations. I've been robbed. I froze. Right? I've been in cases where I've been assaulted. I froze. I just cannot. I can't move. I'm a frozen animal. Right? So we can sit around and analyze the victim and call her a nut and call her a slut because we don't want to accept the fact that Eric Swalwell is probably an alcoholic. It's certainly starting to look like that. It certainly looked that way from the remotes. And people are getting mad at me. And people are unsubscribing because people get a fantasy in their head. I lost 1,000 subscribers when I told people the truth about Amber Heard, and I referenced all the evidence and all the data collection about Deripaska, photographs of Deripaska and Adam Waldman together, evidence that they had been cutting and splicing phone conversations. The purpose was to humiliate and degrade and debase her as much as possible, basically burn the witch, make her a nut and a slut, And I can't tell you how many conversations I have had to delete where people have basically said she's a nut and a slut, as if being a nut and a slut means you get to knock her teeth out. You get to beat the crap out of her because she's a nut and a slut. The victim bashing, the victim shaming, the burning of the witch. Because a guy with a drug problem, a serious drug alcohol problem, a serious violent history, which has been documented all over Hollywood, he's beaten up a lot of people, lured a young actress into a room under false pretenses so that he could get himself some, hired Russian operatives in order to destroy her, spent millions on it, because you have to wonder the level of anger that somebody has to target somebody like that, go crazy. You know, like she said, a false bill of goods, presented himself as drug-free, then finds out he's got this dark side, completely changes when he's popping pills, popping drugs, raping people with bottles, smearing his blood all over the walls, and then paying psychiatrists to drug her so I can continue to do my drugs. Then when she finally escapes, hire a team of Russian operatives that he finds through Mohammed bin Salman, a man who broke his wife's bones and put her in the hospital half a dozen times. Now, Mohammed bin Salman is separate from his wife because he hired similar people to trash the princess when she escaped her psychotic husband, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, out of Saudi Arabia. So I think that this is a teaching moment for all of you and for me, that I will do my best on this channel to fact check. And if I fuck up, I will take responsibility, right? If something is just a feeling or emotion, or I feel this, I will say it. But there's a difference when it's data collection. And in the case of Johnny Depp, it was data collection. It was hard data collection. It was going in and checking and finding out who these people were. Same with Swalwell. I did the remote and I did the investigation and found the extent of the allegations that they had gone on for years, and that he had been threatening victims. So be aware of that. Also, there are certain readers that have made false allegations about what's going on with Lebanon, with Hezbollah, which is a proxy army funded by Iran. My second doctoral degree is on the rebuild of Gaza and the new Gaza that is being built. That is my doctoral degree. That is my dissertation. I'm trying to get a committee together. I'm reaching out now to Tel Aviv University to oversee my PhD. I lived in Israel for close to 6 years. I'm an Israeli citizen. I've traveled all over the Middle East. This is my PhD. So if somebody, if one of the readers says something that's not true, and I correct them, disinformation about why Israel's in Lebanon, because Hezbollah is firing missiles on Israel, because Hezbollah is a terrorist organization that's taken over Lebanon, that's terrorizing the people of Lebanon, that has driven the Christians out of Lebanon. Lebanon used to be a beautiful place. Beirut used to be beautiful. Who destroyed Beirut? It wasn't the Israelis. It was Islamic fundamentalist. Iran moved in 1983, killed something like 350 U.S. service people, blew them up, right? The chaos coming from Iran, right? I'd like to think that I was one of the experts that contributed data to the IDF, and it looks that way. I don't want to go too much into that. I've been asked to refrain until more data comes out. There's some stuff that hasn't come out publicly about that, so I'm just going to let that go. But suffice to say, it's okay to have fun with the readers and enjoy this process, enjoy getting tarot readings, etc. I think it's fun. I think it's entertaining. But there's also real data collection that I try to do, where I will go and let's check the facts. Let's double check. Let's look. Let's check here. Let's check here. Let's check here. And multiple times I have lost subscribers simply because of emotionalism, because I said something that they didn't want to hear. And other readers have told them what they want to hear. Doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It's what I want to hear. And then so I understand there's an aspect to this that's just emotionalism. You want to feel good. You want to hear what you want somebody to prop up your worldview. And so you go to the readers that are going to prop up your worldview. And if a reader comes along and says, actually, that's not what the data shows, and then comes out and says, well, here's actually what the data shows. And then that reader becomes attacked and ostracized, which is what's happening to me. Yeah, so Iran's going to fall because that is the will of the people. That is the will of United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, all the countries that are involved with the Abraham Accords don't feel safe as long as Iran is there threatening everyone. Ballistic missiles firing, not just at Israel, firing now on, they fired on Qatar, they fired on Kuwait, UAE is frightened for their safety. They just need one nuclear weapon on top of one of those ballistic missiles, and it's game over for the state of Israel, right? There's also been a lot of disinformation coming out of Qatar, a lot coming out of Qatar through Al Jazeera, disinformation about what's going on inside Israel, there's a lot of disinformation in the United Nations right now. We have to do we need to dissolve the United Nations when 61 dictatorships and a bunch of dirty money has bought out the UN? Well, the UN voted, yeah, but the vote of the UN is tainted by a bunch of dictatorships with horrible human rights records. Iran should not be part of the UN's Council on Human Rights when they're electrocuting people in prisons for showing a strand of hair. I mean, the IRGC is, don't take my word for it. Go and take a look at the list of the worst countries in the world for human rights, and you won't find Israel on the list. But you will find Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, Sudan. Those are the countries with the worst human rights record, particularly against women, right? So be aware that there's a lot of money in politics. There's a lot of disinformation. Have fun with the readings. But also be open to the facts, even when the facts are uncomfortable. And be careful with emotionalism, because it can cloud our judgment and keep us from the straight and narrow. All right, I just wanted to get that off my chest, and I thank you for your support of the channel, and thanks for listening. Be well.